With the ever-growing sport of spring football, a few players have played for multiple leagues to various results. A prime example of this is Scooby Wright, playing for some failed leagues until breaking through in the USFL, making a name for himself. Today, I'll be talking about Wright with his long career with football, to his huge college days, to his moments as a Sharkdawg. Philip Wright III was born on August 28, 1994 in Windsor, California. Philip would gain his nickname Scoob by his father Philip Jr. after watching Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Scoob would slowly evolve to Scooby as he lived on his life. Scooby would be exposed to sports early on as his father was a former football player for Long Beach State and was the softball coach for Santa Rosa Junior College, and his sister was playing softball for Illinois. All this would come into play into high school. While attending Carmen Newman High, Scooby played football as well as track and field. In football, he would play linebacker and running back for the Cardinals for all 4 years of varsity. His last 2 seasons would be selected All-State. He was elite in Carmen Newman, but was always questioned regarding the recruits. Athleticism was always a concern, being that Wright at the time was 6'1", weighing at 225 pounds. Not to mention his high school wasn't known for producing football talent. So, Scooby would be listed as a 2-star recruit. It would be quiet until his junior year when University of Arizona stumbled upon Scooby's highlights, and then assistant Tony Gibson reached out. After this leaked to the public, other schools would send offers to Wright, but he would stick it out with the Wildcats. In 2012, University of Arizona was looking hot after first-year head coach Rich Rodriguez led the team to an 8-5 record and a New Mexico Bowl win. Going 2013, Scooby would be battling with sophomore Keone Bush-Lew for the starting strong side linebacker spot. He would immediately make an impact with Arizona in their season opener against Northern Arizona, tipping a pass that would be intercepted. He would record 6 tackles, tying second with the team, and from there, it was all his for the taking. In 13 games, Scooby would record 83 combined tackles, 9 being for losses. His biggest highlight was in the huge upset game against Oregon, when Wright grabbed a Marcus Mariota intercepted pass off the hands of Shaq Richardson as he dove out of bounds to keep the ball in play. He would make a few all-freshman lists, but most notably was an all-Pac-12 honorable mention. The Wildcats would go 8-5 and win the Advocare V100 Bowl against Boston College. For Arizona in 2014 was a huge season for them and Scooby alike. Now being the main starter for the linebacker corps with the departure of Jake Fisher, and the man, did he pop off. Wright would record 163 combined tackles, 29 tackles for loss, and 14 sacks, as well as 6 forced fumbles. And when it came to accolade department, Scoop was loaded. 3-time Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week, an unanimous All-American, first-team All-Pac-12, and many awards such as the Bronco Nagurski Trophy, Jack Lambert Trophy, Chuck Bednarik Award, Lombardi Award, and the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, being the first sophomore to ever win the award. The Wildcats would win the South Division champs with 10-4, but would lose the Pac-12 championship against Oregon. Expectations have never been higher for Scooby and the Wildcats in 2015, but things would not go as planned. During the season opener against UTSA, Wright would tear his lateral meniscus on his left knee, missing some time. He would come back against UCLA, but would sprain his right foot, missing the rest of the regular season. The Wildcats would go 6-6, taking a huge step back from their elite season before, but would make the New Mexico Bowl against New Mexico. After missing the majority of the season, Scooby would be healthy for the bowl game. He would garner 15 combined tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. Arizona would win 45-37, and Scooby right then and there announced that he would be heading into the upcoming NFL Draft. In his last year with the Wildcats, he would record 23 combined tackles. With an injury-riddled last season and a so-called gimmick defense Arizona ran, scouts were questioning how Scooby would pan out in the big league, so the NFL Combine would have to be a stellar performance. But when the time came, Wright would not do so well. His arm measurements would be shorter than what the teams want. He would stumble an agility drill. His vertical was last as a linebacker, and the dagger in the heart, a 40 time of 4.9 seconds. After a huge drop in his draft stock, things looked better in his college pro day, highlight being that a 40 time went down to 4.8 seconds. Scooby was an interesting pick for teams as he showed what he could do on the field, but so many athletic cons that weighed their conscience. When draft day came through, it would take some time for Wright's number to be called, but in the 7th round,
250th pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Scooby Wright III, linebacker from Arizona.
The Cleveland Browns picked him up with their 250th pick. The Browns linebacker core was going through changes with the departure of Carlos Dansby and the signing of Demario Davis, but would still have a starter in Christian Kirksey. So the backup spot for inside linebacker would be a battle going to the preseason. In 4 games, Scoob would record 8 combined tackles and 1 sack. With Wright's preseason performance and many believing he was a practice squad stash, he would make the 53-man roster behind Demario Davis. Scooby would be inactive for the first 2 games until being released into the practice squad. Cleveland would suffer injuries from Josh McCown and Cameron Irving, so they needed to clear room for the replacements, and Wright was a casualty, as well as defensive end John Hughes. They would sign Charlie Whitehurst and Oster Reeder. With 3 weeks of football left in the season, the Arizona Cardinals would sign Scooby to their active roster after injuries and much needed special teams help. Before being drafted, head coach Bruce Arians would push Wright to sign with Arizona as an undrafted free agent, but Cleveland would snatch him. After being inactive for another game, he would make an assisted tackle in a crucial red zone stop that would lead to turnover on downs against Seattle. In 2 games, Scooby would have 2 assisted tackles in his rookie season. He would sign a future reserve contract going into 2017. During the offseason, Arizona would sign former first-rounder Jarvis Jones to the core with Wright, Carlos Dansby, Deone Buchanan, and rookie Hassan Riddick. To say the least, Scooby was fighting for another roster spot. When the preseason came, injuries piled up, and Scooby was looking good, tallying 18 combined tackles and a forced fumble. Even with the standout, Wright would be on the practice squad to start the season, but with an injury to Buchanan, the Cardinals would sign Scooby to the active roster for the season opener against the Lions. He would now record a single stat in the loss. Arizona would place him back in the practice squad in order to sign Philip Wheeler. Heading into October, and in wake of Marcus Golden's ACL tear, the Cardinals would sign Wright back to the active roster in Week 5. Only being inactive for 2 games, Scooby would record 5 solo tackles, mainly being in special teams, after only playing 11 defensive snaps. The Cardinals would go 8-8 and miss the playoffs. This would also be the last season with Bruce Arians and Carson Palmer, as they both retired in 2018. With more linebacker names such as Ezekiel Turner and Dennis Gardeck, Scooby for another season fought for his spot on the active roster. Scooby recorded 8 combined tackles and led the second team defense. But even with that and some of the rookies breaking out, Arizona would release Wright for the final roster cuts. After spending a couple months as a free agent, including a workout with the Saints, Scooby would sign with the Arizona Hotshots of the AAF on December 2018. With the Hotshots, Scooby would falter down to the depth chart with the success of Niles Morgan and Steven Johnson, but that didn't mean Wright didn't put an impact with the team. With Ole being active in the season opener, Scooby would record 22 combined tackles with the Hotshots. The Hotshots were going 5-3, reaching for a playoff berth, but before the season could finish, the league shut down operations in April 2019. Scooby was a free agent yet again. But later into August, Wright would sign with the Patriots for their last preseason game against the Giants after placing Brandon King on IR. He would record 2 tackles and 2 sacks in the game, but it wouldn't be enough as the Patriots released him afterwards. It wouldn't be a long time until the Pats signed him back to the practice squad before week 3 in the season. But 2 weeks later, he would be released once again, being replaced by Calvin McKnight, a future XFL player. After ending things with New England, it would be weeks later that Scooby would be drafted by the XFL DC Defenders for the inaugural 2020 season. Very similar to the stint in the AAF, Scooby was the guy behind the linebacker core, behind Jonathan Coleston and Jameer Thurman. But also like the AAF, Scooby still put in the work for his team. In 4 games, Scooby would record 17 combined tackles for the Defenders. The Defenders were 3-2 early in the season until being struck by the COVID pandemic, leading to not only a stop to the season, but led to the XFL filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy, making Scooby a free agent once again. After the XFL, it would be the longest Wright has waited for an opportunity, signing with the Spring League Alphas, but ultimately ended up not playing.
I thought the football dream came to an end. If I'm being real dead honest, I actually had to go to therapy because it was such a hard thing to be away from for 2 years.
Instead, Scooby would pursue developing future in firefighting.
Yeah, so I just graduated the fire academy in December. I was planning on going to be a firefighter, go do my EMT, go do that route.
Practicing MMA, and even auditioned for the WWE. It seemed like Wright's career in football was dimming out until 2022.
And we now have the Birmingham Stallions on the clock. I like this pick. I know this pick. Scooby Wright, and I don't even need to research this one because he played at Arizona and he was a dog at Arizona.
On February 2022, the USFL held the draft for its inaugural season. In round 21, being the inside linebacker round, the Birmingham Stallions would select Scooby as their first pick. He would join a linebacker core with DeMarcus Gates, Terrell Hanks, and Brody Buck. For the first 3 weeks of play, Scooby would be solid, going 26 tackles and a sack. But it would be his performance in Week 4 against the Bandits that would make Scooby a fan favorite. Wright would be everywhere on the field, recording 6 tackles and 2 tackles for loss, a team best that game. He would also gain a crucial sack on Jordan Tayamu and create what is known as the Sharkdawg celebration.
Oh, you know what a Sharkdawg is? My brand. It's a half shark, half dog.
For here on out, Sharkdawg would become a namesake for Scooby. The Stallions would win 16-10, and Scooby would earn Defensive Player of the Week for the performance. After the Week 4 game against the Bandits, Wright would miss the next 3 games, suffering a calf injury, and return against the Breakers. Scooby and the Stallions would win 9-1 and earn South Division champions. In the first round of playoffs against New Orleans, Scooby put up 7 combined tackles in the win, 31-17, and a ticket to the USFL Championship against the Philadelphia Stars. And with the championship, Scooby puts up his best moment as a professional football player. It would be quiet for Scooby for the majority of the game, making 3 tackles so far. In the fourth quarter, the Stallions have just scored, making the game 26-23. The Stars have just lost their starter Case Cookis to injury and places in KJ Costello.
Hey, let's score here. Let's score here, bro. Let's score here, dog.
3 minutes left on the clock, and the Stars' 43-yard line. That would be the game-winning touchdown for the Stallions, as they go on to beat the Stars 33-30, being inaugural USFL champions. Scooby would resign with the Stallions for the 2023 season. The Stallions would lose DeMarcus Gates and Terrell Hanks, meaning Scooby would have to step up. He would be the starter for the linebackers until Week 2 against the Showboats, where Scooby would suffer a calf injury. The injury would keep Wright out for the rest of the season, as the Stallions would win the South Division once again with an 8-2 record. Scooby would come back on the active roster for the postseason, help the Stallions beat the Breakers, and make it back into the championship against the Maulers. Unlike the championship before, Scooby didn't make an impact as big as last year's, but he was there when the Stallions won 28-12, making him a 2-time USFL champion. In 4 games, Wright would record 9 combined tackles and 2 tackles for loss. With the offseason on July 20th, 2023, Scooby would state that he was coming back for the 2024 season with the Stallions. He is currently focusing to recover and heal from the injuries, and he'll be ready for whatever comes next. Wright became the passionate leader for the Birmingham defense, and that comes from everything he's fought for: fighting to make an FBS school, fighting to be a big name for the Arizona Wildcats, fighting to be on an NFL active roster, fighting to stay in football even when football didn't want him. Now with the USFL, Scooby has made a name for himself with 2 rings. And if that doesn't put him in the Mount Rushmore of spring football community, I don't know what will.